Hello! So, JustFlight have finally released the RAF Vulcan for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and it's available for all of us to go and buy now instead of just the select few that they gave for early access. Okay, so we're going to have a little walk around it on the ground. You can see it's absolutely wonderfully modelled. So I've spent the evening learning my way around the aeroplane, figuring out how to start it up, and doing my usual trick of cutting out all of the checks and balances that you don't necessarily have to do if you don't want to follow the true study level path. So I've kind of written up a checklist of the absolute essential things, and we'll work through that together, and then we'll take the airplane for a fly and have a look at some of the autopilot functions as well along the way. Okay, so you can see it's absolutely gigantic. I've actually walked around a real one at RAF Hendon, or the Hendon RAF Museum, I guess is the correct title. And yeah, it's colossal. Stood in the bomb bay of the one at Hendon and watched a documentary on a TV suspended in the end of the bomb bay. A whole group of us stood inside the bomb bay. It was quite amazing, actually. So this is one of the earlier model Vulcans that has the Olympus engines, so they'll make the nice noise. I love the little touches they've put in this, where the control surfaces droop before they get power. It's very, very well done. Okay, so let's go and jump inside the cockpit and get the airplane started up and see how we get on, shall we? I just can't get over how well modelled it is. The material modelling throughout is absolutely stunning. Okay, I'm going to put the Xbox controller to one side and we'll go back to the internal view, so cockpit view, and I'll turn the head tracking on. There we go, and we can have a look around. So you can see the quality of the modelling inside really is something else. It's very, very well done. So all of the panels, all the switches, buttons, knobs, dials, everything works. Absolutely everything. It's a real piece of work, it really is. So there are more controls than you can actually see, So there's a tablet in the aircraft, and you can see you've got shortcuts to get to the various views. So I'll just do this without the head tracking so it's easy to see. So you've got, obviously you can load the aircraft out in lots of different ways as well. But there's the first pilot, the second pilot, obviously that puts you in the co-pilot seat. There's this AEO station, which is for the control of the APU and the alternators, and yeah, the electrical systems are in the aircraft. You'll notice though that we can't pan around when we're looking here. I think what they've done is set up some, when you click these buttons in the tablet, they've set up some showcase views that are hard coded into the interior of the aircraft. So because they kind of ran out of resources, I guess, with building the aeroplane to have an acceptable frame rate, with having all of the entire inside of the cabins built, they've built some basic boxes inside the airplane that have these panels on them. Whether this will get upgraded in the future, I don't know. There's also the same for the navigator station, so there's a nice panel there for that as well, and if you pull the tablet back up. So let's go and jump back to the pilot's seat and see how we get this airplane started, shall we? So the first thing we're going to do is head straight back to that AEO position, and we're going to go and turn on the APU, auxiliary power unit, although it's called the AAPP in this aircraft. So we open the cock over there, we turn the master switch on, and then we press the button in here, and you'll see the PSI go up and the heat go up, and you can hear a whine in the background as it fires up. So back into the tablet, we're going to go back to the first pilot's position, and we're going to go and turn the oxygen on. So there's a switch down here, and if we go over to the co-pilot's position, we can turn his oxygen on as well. Then back in the tablet, we can go back to the AEO section, and we can go and switch the battery on in its isolation switch there, and close the cage back over it again, and then go back to the tablet and go and request ground power be plugged into the aeroplane, and you can see a little sun timer appears next to ground power. If we go and have a look on the external view, you will see that we now have the ground power unit attached to the aeroplane, and that will get up and running. It takes a few moments. If we go back inside and press F, we can see the ground power is now up and running, which is good. So we need to be back in the AEO section to make use of the ground power, so we need to go and uncage and switch on alternators 1 and 4. Then we go back to the pilot's position in the cockpit, and then we press Control and 5. We go and turn the radio on. We turn the volume up on the radio. Then while we're in the cockpit, we can press B to shortcut calibrating the altimeter, press D to shortcut calibrating the compass if it needs to. I think they call it synchronizing the compasses actually, because you compare them against the binnacle compass to make sure they're accurate, or the whiskey compass as some people call it. Okay, so then we have to go to the fuel cocks. Now they're hidden under here, so I've created my own view that dips down, and you pull these cages away, flick the switches forwards, and then re-cage them. Okay, so then to the pedestal we press Control and 3, and you'll notice we can't see a pedestal, so we pan the view upwards and we pull this lever, and out comes the pedestal. So just to show you that from a different view, we've got the pedestal here. If you can see it tucks away, so the pilots can climb in and out, I believe. Okay, so down here we're going to go and put the power on the autopilot. It takes a little while for the autopilot to be ready, so we can do that early. Then we can go back to the cockpit view. So if we press F, I've got a mistake in my checklist. I'm actually writing a checklist at the same time I'm doing this. So this is me validating my own checklist. So one of the other tasks we need to do, and the ordering of doing these things, some of it's up for debate, and I'm sure I'll refine it over time. So we click on the stalks of each throttle to pull them away from shut-off to their idle positions. Then we go to Control 6, which is the right-hand side of the cockpit, and we need to move this pressure selector by rolling the mouse wheel on it. Yeah, it's difficult. Roll the mouse wheel on it. So then go back over to Control 6 again. After doing that, we put the external light to on, we put the nav lights to flash, then we go back to the tablet and we're going to go and turn on this thing called Palust. So if we go and look outside with the external view again, and we look around this side, you will see there's this cart here now. It actually contains a small gas turbine that's going to create the compressed air to spin the engines up, and the manufacturer of that gas turbine is called Palust, and I hope I'm getting the pronunciation right. Okay, so we'll jump back inside the aircraft. Again, as with the ground power, you get a sun timer that's now gone out, so that's available. So we can do engine start now. So Control 5 takes us to the left side of the cockpit. So to do engine start, we need to go and select rapid engine start. We're going to start all 4 engines at once. It's a bit of a party trick of the Vulcan. We're going to turn the master ignition switch on. We're going to turn the master switch for the ignition system on, and then we're going to press this big black button, and it starts all of the engines at once. So if we go to the outside view, you can see the heat haze forming around the engine exhausts. So we're going to increase the throttles out to 50%. You can see all of the dials and the pressures and the temperatures are rising, and we'll pull the engines back to idle. So, having done that, we go back into the tablet to the AEO position. And we look for the alternators, which are all the way across the bottom here, and we switch them all on. And then we press the app button, or the AAPP button up here, to use the AAPP to provide power to the aircraft. You can actually trip it to use the generated power from the engines. So if you wanted to check what each alternator is doing, by the way, you can look up here. But you can trip it, which will then use what's coming off the engines. But if you want to use the AAPP, you can switch that one on instead. So first pilot position, we need to go back to the first pilot in the tablet. We need to go Control 5 to go back down the side where the starting controls were. We turn off the ignition system, turn off the MSW switch, the master switch. Then go back into the cockpit, and we need to turn the fuel pumps on. So if we just look down here on the pedestal, it's got a rough layout of the pumps in the aircraft. We're going to go and turn every pump on. There's obviously a world of things here you can do around pumping fuel between tanks, but we're not even going to touch on any of that today. So that's got all of the pumps on, which is good. You'll notice we now have, if we just look back, there's a magnetic light. It's not really a light, a ball that rotates that says the autopilot is ready. We can test that to say, can we engage it, for example, or maybe we can't. Oh no, the simulator's just paused on us. So there we go. So we've engaged the autopilot so it can stay on. We should be able to lift that and it will stay there. That's good. I'm just testing things, and that flicks back again. Look, to say it's ready, it's not on. It says in instead of on, or engaged. It's a bit strange, but there we go. We'll have a play with the autopilot once we're flying. Okay, so Control 5 takes us back to the left panel, and we're going to have a look at this panel here, the PFC. So this is the, you can see it's the elevons, the dampers, and all these various systems. What we're going to do is start the pressurization system here, or PFC start, sorry. And you'll see the lights have already gone out here. We need to pull out the ones that are pushed in. Okay, and these will go out after time, hopefully. If they don't, you can press these buttons again and they'll go out after a few seconds, so they correspond. Just wait, give that one a few seconds. There it goes. You can read all about this panel and what this is actually doing in the documentation. There's a 150 page book that comes with the aircraft. It's really good. Okay, so having done that, I'm just reading back through my instructions. Lights are extinguished, so back to the pilot view, throttles to idle, monitor the instruments, remove the ejection seat pins. So if we look behind the co-pilot, there's a pin here we can pull out, and it kind of simplifies this for you. It's pulled 3 pins out from the pilot and the co-pilot, so there's a similar arrangement on the other side of the cockpit. So you can see that all of the ejection seat pins have been pulled. So if we go down to the tablet now, we can request that the ground power is removed, the paloost is removed, the chocks are removed, the bomb doors are closed, and the crew doors are closed. And then finally, we go over to the right side again, and we put the taxi lights on. And we come off the parking brake, and we ease the throttles open. And we'll put the head tracking back on while we're at it. Centre our view up. There's hardly a cloud in the sky, isn't there? Should we have a look and see what weather we've got in the simulator? Maybe we'll put a broken cloud in so we see something. So we've got live weather on at the moment. Let's go for scattered cloud maybe? Or few clouds. Few clouds is quite nice, isn't it? It's quite bright. So we are at RAF Coningsby, in the north of England. And this is an Orbex scenery I'm using. So I've been following some written notes that I've written up during the evening as I've learnt the aeroplane. I will make them available to download, so you'll be able to get them from ko-fi.com. I'll put a link in the notes of the video. Oh, we do have a co-pilot, by the way. Fetching looking chap. So we can just about fit past these various Eurofighters and have a look. I'm just going to miss the ladder by a couple of feet. I have to say the sounds of the Vulcan are absolutely brilliant. Watch the shed. Close shave. Okay, so we'll taxi out to the runway. It's worth pointing out, I've actually had to turn the multiplayer off to record this. There have been so many Vulcans at Coningsby today because of the release of this that it was actually deafening all the time. You know, the ambient noise was just off the charts, and you're about to find out why. So, full throttle. So we'll rotate at about 130 knots. Knots are down here. Okay, we're off the ground. Gear up. So you can see I can let go of the controls. It's very, very stable. Tends to go where you point it. I will say head tracking helps a lot with seeing out of the Vulcan. So let's pull the throttles back a little bit. So we see we've raced through 200 knots there on a gentle climb out. If we stay at full throttle, it will, in level flight, it will easily go through 300 knots. Even at low level. Okay, so let's have a little look at the control of the autopilot. So you've got a controller here. This tells it which compass to use, whether you use left or right compasses. You've got altitude control here. We're not going to get into that today. You've also got bomb is heading mode. So we're going to move that to bomb. And we're going to come down here and we're going to say the autopilot's already on. We're going to engage it. It's in altitude hold mode at the moment. But we need to click on it to lift it. And you will see it's now going to bring the nose down. So you can see that climb rate we had is being wound out automatically. And it's going to wobble the other way. It's got quite a lot of momentum. And it will level the aeroplane out. Or attempt to. You can see it's gradually doing it. So the other thing you can do is track mode, which is going to be where we selected bomb. So we go track mode, and we can now use the, remember our aeroplane is going this way, so if we move this needle around, it's already banking towards the marker, so we can move the marker on this instrument. So the aeroplane is us, so we're pointing that way and it's turning towards the needle. Or sorry, towards the marker I should say. Okay. So if we go and have a look on the map, we can actually make some sense of what we're doing. Look, we just turned left. So if we were to turn further left, see the aeroplane is gently banking. It's holding altitude automatically. Or it's trying to, look. It's going to have to feed in some elevators. So if we go and have a look outside, you can see. So we want to be going, what's the reciprocal, 250. We would like the heading bug to be at 250 ideally. So it's worth pointing out, I mean, okay, we're just playing around with the autopilot, flying around in circles, but it's worth pointing out you need to be careful of speed in the Vulcan. You can see, look, we're running at about 75% throttle and we've gone up through 300 knots. So let's cut the engine back, and if we go and have a look outside, I'm just going to pull the spoilers. You can see you do have quite effective spoilers, and they're really useful on approach because it's so slippery through the air. Any sort of descent rate and it will accelerate. Okay, so we're going to fly around and then come in visually back into runway 07 at Coningsby. Okay, let's go and disengage the autopilot for the moment and have a bit of a fly. So disengage it, and we have control. So let's just press. If I put some major deflection in, so we're coming down to 250 knots again. If we go maximum deflection, you can see it's actually quite agile. Bit of an air show trick you sometimes see. If we go full throttle, we'll pull up into a steep climb, so we'll get some speed first. Let me put the camera back in the right place, get some speed. Okay, so we're going to pull up, steep climb, roll over, and pull the aeroplane back down. So notice why I did that. Did you see how much the nose departed from the direction of travel? So you do need to be very careful in the Vulcan. Look at the speed we built up, nearly 350 knots in that descent. Okay, let's see where we are on the map. So we're coming back into Coningsby. Letting the speed fall off. There's the airfield. As I said earlier, there is no stall warning, so you do need to fly the aeroplane sensibly and keep an eye on the numbers. It won't stay in the air and it won't warn you if it's about to fall out of the air. So we're about parallel with the apron over at Coningsby. So to help us maintain low speed on the way in, let's pull the throttle back, lose a bit of speed. Remember, we don't have flaps in this, it's just a great big delta. So let's get gear down. Using a fair amount of rudder as well. It has a big tendency of tipping away from the direction of turn. I'm very, very wary of getting too slow in it. Yeah, you can feel it. Look, there's lots of sounds associated with the buffeting. Okay, let's put the spoilers out. And we're down. The light you saw come on there just above the dash, we were right on the limit of the alpha angle for the aeroplane. There we go. We're down. There is a drag parachute as well. We haven't needed to use it because we came in so slowly. So let's go and get off the runway and have a look around in the aeroplane as well. There's something weird going on here with the view, but I'm not going to worry too much. Just going to park up on the edge of the runway here. So we have served the purpose of this first look at the Vulcan. It's a fantastic aeroplane in the simulator. I am really, really surprised at just how good it is. It's probably got the best sounds of any aircraft in the simulator so far. Really surprised at just how good it is. So let's put the parking brake on and have a look from outside. Go and get rid of those spoilers. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. The Avro Vulcan in-flight simulator. Very, very cool. Right, I'm going to leave it there, and I'll see you again soon.